Hi, and welcome to today's episode of the ADHD Mompreneur podcast. And I am super excited to have my first guest on the ADHD Mompreneur, and that is Dr. Julie Shafer, who is here to talk with us today about people pleasing. Dr. Julie is a psychologist, a relationship coach, and an award-winning author. She works with women on healing their people-pleasing habits and to create empowered, healthy relationships with the people that they love. Welcome, Dr. Julie.
Oh, thank you. I'm very happy to be here.
This is something that comes up. The idea of people pleasing or being a yes person comes up so often with my ADHD clients. And I know that you don't specifically only work with ADHDers, but I know with your background in psychology and, just mental health, you are aware of ADHD and their people pleasing tendencies. Are there any specific symptoms for us ADHDers that you feel like contribute to people's desire to say yes or be people pleasers?
Well, I think it's kind of a pattern. So I wouldn't say, oh, well, your tendency to do X is going to make you more likely to be a people pleaser. I think what's happening for most people with ADHD who fall into this is that you're trying to get it right. And you make mistakes or you forget things, right? And then you feel bad about it. So you redouble your efforts. And you're rewarded for that because when you don't make mistakes or when you do get it right, people are happy with you. And then you're happy with yourself, right? Because phew, I didn't mess up.
Right.
Right. And so we get reinforced into that. And with ADHD, of course, there's going to be more reinforcement if you're making more mistakes or you feel like you're not fitting in with the people around you or you're different in some way, then you're just trying harder, right?
Yeah. And I really feel like what you're saying, it kind of aligns also with maybe perfectionism is people pleasing and because I know that is also something I see a lot in my clients. When you're talking about like, if you do it right, people reward you and you feel good about yourself. But if you do it wrong, then maybe you don't feel so good about yourself or, rejection sensitive dysphoria pops up and even though someone's just giving you a gentle correction, it may feel like they're attacking you.
Right.
How closely aligned do you feel like the idea to please people is with kind of the fear of being a failure?
Oh, absolutely. Well, and we often can't verbalize this very well because a lot of the patterns that get set up are happening before we really develop language. So they're happening before we're about 5. And you've got if your brain isn't developing right and you're developing into the ADHD pattern, it's happening even before you're 5, right? Parents may not notice it or teachers may not notice it before that, but it's there. And so you may not have a way to explain this, but we are very, very sensitive and attuned to whether or not we feel accepted and connected emotionally with the people around us. And if your brain development is making that harder, you're going to just be more sensitive to that.
Yeah.
If you can tell that, you're a hyperactive kid and you're one of your parents isn't like it's struggling with your hyperactivity, or you're just kind of inattentive and out, sort of in the clouds a lot or playing alone a lot, and you're not sure how to connect, it sort of sets up this heightened sensitivity to rejection. And I think that's at the core of a lot of the perfectionism that shows up, whether you have ADHD or not. But with ADHD, I think there's going to be this higher level. And that's why we see that rejection sensitivity so much.
Yeah. I mean, there have been times when I have ruminated. I mean, there are still things that I ruminate on. I feel like I did something wrong or I failed at something, and I'll like lay down in bed at night and it's from 25 years ago. So it really does like just sit in there and linger. So it makes sense that like you want to mitigate that as much as possible, right? You don't want that stress, that anxiety, that sort of like fear of disappointing somebody or disappointing yourself, right?
Right.
So if you are an ADHDer and you are finding that you are saying yes a lot, because I want to caveat, I just happened to think of this. It's not bad to say yes. It's not bad to want people to be happy with you, right? I mean,
Right.
we're not trying to say don't be a people pleaser in general, correct?
Right. Yes, that's correct. We're trying to really say, notice where it's getting you in trouble.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That's what I'm wondering is like if there are any steps that you would maybe suggest if you are finding that you're a people pleaser, and not that it's bringing you joy or that it's something that you look forward to, but it's actually something that is making you feel anxious or stressed or overwhelmed. What kind of steps would you recommend somebody start taking in order to kind of like change course?
Yeah. So in the short term, if you notice this is happening, I would focus on what you can do to take care of yourself and what works for you. So for some people, that's go read a book. For other people, let's go for a run, do some art project that you really enjoy. Find a way to incorporate that into your life, to carve out time for that and set aside time for that, because it's going to make it easier for you to have the energy to come back to your people and help them, right?
Yeah.
So that's in the short term. In the long term, if you're starting to notice this pattern that you get yourself into situations where you're overwhelmed because you said yes too much, and we've all done it. I mean,
Yeah.
it just it's just part of what comes along with wanting to be helpful and engaged with people. Um, you want to start noticing your pattern and notice what you tend to say yes to, who you tend to say yes to, what kind of things you get excited about. I mean, I think sometimes, like, especially if you're an entrepreneur type person, you get a lot of energy around an idea, right? And then you just go for it. But if you're not careful, you'll overcommit yourself to it.
Oh,
Right?
1,000%. Well, and I think too, to your point about entrepreneurs is I think one trap that I often see, and I also fell into it in my first business. I am a little better, that was my professional organizing business. I moved into coaching in 2019, but I would say yes to every client that came my way because I wanted people to have a positive view of me as a business owner. And so it's like a people pleasing in a different way. It's not like I am going out of my way to spend time doing something for somebody, but I'm just like saying yes to these new clients that maybe may not be serving me. And it really took an evaluation of my values and being like, I'm not going to work. If a client needs me in the evenings, I'm not going to do that, even though I feel like I would be leaving money on the table. I want to make sure that I am staying true to my values and to what I prioritize in my life. And I think that, that's similar to what you're saying there is like, you've got to be really clear on your yeses and your nos.
Absolutely. And be mindful of your energy level. If you are seeing clients, if that is your business model as a coach, or like I'm a therapist, know how many people you can see in a day before you get exhausted. Right? And
Yeah.
then no matter how much you want to see somebody additional, you don't do it. And that's part of how you take care of yourself.
Yeah,
Yeah.
those boundaries, they can be pretty hard,
Oh yeah,
especially for us
totally.
ADHDers. We're perpetual boundary pushers, I
Yes.
feel like.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and, that energy that you might have towards something, really, you're also struggling with keeping your own boundaries in that scenario, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you totally want to go do the thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And sometimes, and I think too, especially with us ADHDers, is we're not good at like knowing our limits, right? And so it may be that we actually do want to do all these things. We want to be on the PTO and assistant soccer coach and directing the play and baking for the bake sale like we genuinely do want to do this. It's just a matter of we don't actually have the capacity for it. We don't, like to your point, we don't have the energy for it. We maybe don't have the time for it, or that's when things kind of start to maybe unravel at home if you don't have time to clean the house or do the laundry or go grocery shopping and
Right.
things like that. And so that's where I feel like even though you're saying yes to things that you enjoy and it might meet your value system, it can cause that anxiety, that stress, that overwhelm, because there are still other responsibilities. So it's really about that balance, huh?
Right, it is. And so if you kind of know what you're prone to, and maybe even write these down, like make a rule for yourself, like I only work X number of hours on this project, period. Like I have to follow that rule, because if you get caught up in the moment and what you feel like doing, you're going to violate that boundary that you set
Yeah.
for yourself, that thing, that capacity limit that you know is there. So in the long term, you just want to kind of be mindful of the fact that your energy will get you carried away, right? And know where, just kind of intellectually know where your limits are, and don't rely on that feeling that you have, like, oh, I really want to.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm constantly talking about accountability, probably because I'm an accountability coach, but
Mhm.
I feel like, especially for us ADHDers, that's where that accountability can really be
Yeah,
helpful, to your point of, I realize where I say yes too often. I realize where I am going to put myself over capacity. I need somebody to say, "Hey, Julie,
yeah,
I need some help. I have said yes too often. I need to unravel this a little bit. And then I need some support in saying, no, or developing how I want to say no or avoid this in the future." And I think that
right,
that accountability is so key to that process that you were talking about.
right. And bring a little self-compassion to the process too, because you're gonna mess it up occasionally. You're gonna say yes too much, and you might have even thought about it ahead of time, but when you get into it, it's more than you realized,
Yeah.
right? And so learning how to back out of those things can be really important. And I remember having this conversation with the supervisor when I was doing my practicum after grad school. It was like I wasn't getting a project done he wanted me to. And then he set me aside and he said, look, if you can't do it, that's okay. But you need to be able to say, I can't do this. So that the other people involved, if it's doing something for PTO or for the soccer team, like other parents can probably pick up the slack for you if you come to them and say, hey, I've overcommitted myself. And that takes a lot of courage, because that's basically admitting failure.
Yeah.
And so you have to be willing to bring a little self-compassion to that process.
Well, and I think that we've kind of demonized failure to a point in this society. But somebody the one time, and I say this all the time to clients, to myself, to my kids, is fail doesn't mean it's something bad. It means it's your first attempt in learning. That's what fail
Yeah,
stands for. And
I like
I
that.
love that so much, because it's that growth mindset, right? It's that
Yeah,
idea that, like, yeah, I'm going to get it wrong once in a while. And that's okay, because then now I have data that I can analyze and maybe try a different approach the next
right.
time. And so I think that, you know, eh, obviously our generations, and even I feel like to an extent, even my kids' generation, we're just starting to realize these things now. And so hopefully as we move forward, we'll be able to sort of evolve our thinking around failure and saying no, or, saying no isn't a bad thing. I think, I can't remember who it was. Was it the, oh, Cheryl, I can't remember her name now, but she was a CEO, and she said no is a full sentence or something like that,
Yeah,
something to that effect, that, you know, it's okay to say no. It's okay to back out if you have overcommitted yourself and you're feeling a lot of stress and overwhelm, because I feel like that's something that women in general we just ride it, and we don't have to. And then, just like accepting our failures and learning from them and building on that to go forward.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, this has been super enlightening. I am so excited to have you here. And if anybody would like to learn more about how to work with you, or just more about your services in general, where can they find you?
Well, you can go to my website, drjulieshafer.com. And you can also, I've got a brand new, just in June, YouTube channel. So Dr. Julie Shafer on YouTube. And you can find me there too, where I do like 10 to 12-minute videos on various topics. So you might find some nuggets there.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate your time so much. And if you would like to connect with Dr. Julie, be sure to check out the show description, where I will have links to her website and her YouTube channel so you can learn more about her. And I will be back next week. So make sure that you have followed or subscribed to the ADHD Mompreneur so you don't miss any of my upcoming episodes. If you're a business owning mom with ADHD, you're going to need to grab my free customizable essential checklists for ADHD mompreneurs by visiting bit.ly/checklists for ADHD mompreneurs or by following the link in the episode description. Do it now before you forget. Until next time.